For decades, NATO has helped to preserve and create stability in Europe. The end of the Cold War marked a new period of optimism and hope. The Soviet Union dissolved peacefully, former adversaries joined NATO and the European Union, and Russia became a partner of the alliance. NATO's mission evolved. We worked to build a Europe whole, free, and at peace with Russia, while maintaining our defenses at the lowest possible level. We also stepped up to manage conflicts beyond our territory, with missions in the Balkans and after 9/11 in Afghanistan. So NATO showed its adaptability at the end of the Cold War, and that was extremely important. Today, the world is more dangerous than it's been for many decades. To the east, we see an assertive Russia, violating sovereign borders. To the south, we see turmoil across the Middle East and North Africa. And we face other threats, including acts of terrorism in our own streets. So today, our commitment to defend each other is as important as ever before, because the challenges we face are such that no nation can tackle them alone. And for many partners, that's a reason to seek NATO membership. For 67 years, NATO has bound the United States, Canada, and European allies together, an anchor for world security and the ultimate insurance policy. This myth ignores geography. Let's just take a quick look at the map. Russia's land border is just over 20,000 kilometers long. Of that, less than 1/16, 1215 kilometers, is with current NATO members. Russia shares land borders with 14 countries, and only 5 of them are NATO members. Outside NATO territory, the alliance only has a military presence in 3 places: Kosovo, Afghanistan, and off the Horn of Africa. All 3 operations are carried out with a UN mandate, and therefore carry the approval of Russia along with all the other Security Council members. In contrast, Russia has bases in 3 countries, Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine, without the consent of their governments. In fact, we've seen new permanent deployments all along Russia's western border with NATO allies, from the Barents to the Baltic Sea, and from the Black Sea to the Mediterranean. There are currently an estimated 300,000 Russian troops based in its western military district alone. If you're interested in this issue, I would encourage everyone to read the NATO-Russia Founding Act very carefully, and I actually helped negotiate it. It says that NATO will refrain from additional permanent stationing of substantial combat forces. When we recently agreed to deploy 4 battalions to the east of our alliance, we also agreed that they would be rotational, not permanent. Moreover, the total levels are well below any reasonable definition of substantial combat forces. Russia, which pledged to exercise similar restraint, has increased the numbers of its troops along our borders, and it has breached agreements which allow for verification and military transparency. So NATO has respected its commitments faithfully. Russia has not. By signing the Founding Act, Russia pledged not to threaten or use force against NATO allies and any other state. It has broken this commitment with the illegal annexation of Crimea, the territory of a sovereign state. And Russia continues to support militants in eastern Ukraine. NATO's missile defense system is not directed against Russia. Geography and physics make it impossible for the NATO system to shoot down Russian intercontinental missiles. Their capabilities are too limited, their planned numbers are too few, and their locations are too far south to do so. And that includes the new site in Romania and the future site in Poland. Both Russian scientists and officials have confirmed this. Now, some claim that the agreement on Iran's nuclear program removes the need for NATO missile defense. But there are 2 reasons why they're wrong. The Iran agreement does not cover the proliferation of ballistic missile technology, which Iran is continuing to develop and test. And our missile defense is not about any one country, but about the proliferation threat more generally. A growing number of countries have obtained or are trying to obtain ballistic missile technology, and NATO will fulfill its responsibility to defend its citizens. And let me add that we regret that Russia broke off talks on linking our missile defense systems against common threats. That was a real missed opportunity. We're not preparing for war with Russia. NATO is a defensive alliance. whose purpose is to protect our member states. And we do not seek confrontation with Russia. For almost a quarter of a century, we worked to establish a partnership with Russia. We announce our military exercises well in advance, and they're subject to international observation. Our plans for more forces in the Baltic states and Poland are a response to a changed security environment. Remember that before Russia's illegal annexation of Crimea, we had no plans to send NATO troops to the eastern part of the alliance. And we continue a policy of strong defense combined with constructive dialogue with Russia to discuss our differences, to enhance military transparency, and to reduce risks. While practical cooperation remains suspended, we will continue our dialogue with Russia.
NATO's claiming there has been a sharp rise in disinformation coming from Russia. The alliance has even set up a special website with 32 myths Russia apparently uses to discredit NATO. RT's Nikki Aaron takes a closer look.
As the fake news mudslinging continues, a fresh pile of blame has been hurled at Russia. And what's causing NATO particular distress is something they're calling the spread of myths, which it says are being spread by this very channel. And so NATO has created their own reality check catalogue. 32 arguments, each intended at debunking fake claims which they say have been made about the alliance. Naturally, here at RT, we've studied the list in excruciating detail. Let's take a look at a few examples.
So, NATO releases the ultimate myth debunking guide starring Russia. We took a look at them, and, well, honestly, most of those myths picture Moscow as this drama queen that's seeking to make everything about herself. But is Moscow really overreacting? For instance, the encircling thing. NATO says it hardly borders Russia. This is a NATO map. The yellow is Russia's border with NATO members. Myth debunked? Well, let's just take a small step back. Then there's another myth. For debunking, NATO turns to its decades-old 1949 founding treaty. Indeed, no mention of Russia, or rather, the Soviet Union there. It reads NATO is there to, quote, safeguard the freedom, common heritage and civilization. Okay, NATO, if you say so. But what about all these?
What we see is a more assertive Russia.
We cannot feel secure with such a Russia.
Threats and challenges emanating from the East.
We are implementing the biggest reinforcement of our collective defense.
And so this is a signal to Russia.
And this is the message under one of the official videos from NATO drills in Europe. So NATO and Russia are good, or aren't they? We're confused. But let's look elsewhere. For instance, NATO's largest and seemingly never-ending operation in Afghanistan. The UN says that Afghan opium production is up 43%, so things are bad. NATO's response? It's the Afghan government's problem. Okay, at least there's no insurgents there. Not so fast. According to this report, the Afghan government controls only 2/3 of the country's territory. And there's also this. Well, so much for myth-busting NATO.
Now, the vibes we're getting from NATO's idea of what constitutes the spreading of disinformation is anyone who queries NATO's vision and actions and dares to speak out about it in public. Talk about touchy.
When you want to continue the politics of confrontation, you need an argumentation for that. You need ideological hegemony for your positions. And this is a part of the NATO strategy of disinformation.
And while we're on the whole fake news topic, let's address one specific example of disinformation given by the NATO spokesperson. It's regarding how in July last year, RT had issued a fake report about a fire at a NATO airbase in Turkey. Wow, that's a real egg-on-face moment, but fortunately not for us, because we didn't say the fire was at the base, we said it was near it.
News from Turkey, where a massive forest fire has broken out near NATO's base in the Izmir province.
And while NATO said the fire was some distance from the base, there were also reports from local media sources that said the fire was spreading closer towards it. On our website, we gave all the information we had, including the statement from NATO. So it looks like it's not RT, but NATO that needs to try harder when it comes to getting the facts right.
As NATO continues its biggest military buildup in Europe since the Second World War, more U.S. military hardware is being deployed to northern Germany. Dozens of military helicopters arrived in a German port on Sunday as a part of the alliance's ongoing mission, quote, to boost European security in the face of Russian assertiveness.
NATO and many of the NATO countries are trying to escalate conflict with Russia. You have right now on the border of Russia 4,000 heavily armed U.S. troops in Poland engaged in very actively in war exercises. You have 3 other NATO member states, Germany, Canada, and Great Britain, in the 3 Baltic states, about 1,000 troops in each case. And we should never forget how much more money the U.S. and NATO spend on military than Russia. I think anyone could understand why Russia.
In today's constantly changing environment, an information advantage is crucial to decision-making. A modern submarine is a system that, among other purposes, collects information below the surface, hidden and difficult to detect. The A26 is the next-generation submarine, designed for multiple missions, silent, vibration-free, and virtually invisible when underwater. Using the Stirling Air Independent Propulsion System, the submarine can operate without the need for fresh air. This unique technology allows the submarine to stay fully submerged for long periods of time during a mission. Sub has a long history of successfully supplying submarine systems and is one of the most modern submarine programs in the world today.
The prerequisite for a submarine is the ability to stay undetected. Stealth is everything. The stealthier a submarine gets, the harder it will be for the opponent to find it. So, a submarine in itself is a force multiplier for your own navy. And that is the main reason for having submarines.
The A26 has a modular-based build and design, which makes it very flexible and cost-efficient. It means that the submarine is divided into smaller units, called modules, that are built, equipped, designed and tested separately outside the hull, ready to be inserted into the submarine. The modular-built submarine can easily be taken apart if and when the modules need to be modified or replaced with new systems. In this way, the entire system is designed to meet future demands, as well as new technical requirements. With its proven record of delivering complex naval solutions, Saab's capabilities cover the entire spectrum of surface and subsurface operations. With A26, Saab delivers a complete submarine system, built and designed to meet today's challenges and to anticipate those of the future. The A26 is built on a fast, flexible platform that can easily be updated with new functions and adapted to customers' changing needs and challenges. It is equipped with a multi-mission portal in the front, making the submarine ready for various missions. The A26 also needs less service on land and can thus spend more time in service at sea than earlier vessels.
Our design and production methods make the submarine future-proofed. That means that it will stay on the crest of the wave for its entire life cycle.